Yeah, this is just a really great way for us to share a little bit more about what happens after DRBU. And I'm very happy that we have two of our alumni with us here today, Christina Zavaleta and Alex Wong. And really, it's just a chance to hear from them, like, their personal experience of how DRBU has helped them, live in the world and engage with the world. So we'll start off with, I'll just ask them a few questions just to get the ball rolling, and then really look forward to hearing what your questions are because we're really doing this for you and seeing if we can help you better, get a better sense of what goes on here at DRBU. Um, so I think, a good way to start off is that we can, I'll ask, maybe I'll start with Christina. If maybe you can share a little bit about, um, basically, it's a hard question, but, who are you? Like, what program did you do at DRBU? What are you doing now? Basically, like, what's going on in your life? And maybe not only what are you doing now in your career, but what are some of your future career goals?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, my name is Cristina Zavaleta. I am a person who graduated from the class of 2020 at DRBU. So I was a COVID grad, which basically means that like my last few months was actually done online. Um, my most recent role is basically a business development representative with like marketing. And I have had like basically a bunch of years of experience in sales and outreach and like public relations. I just really love working with people. So one of my goals actually moving forward, most of them are entrepreneurial. So I love working with people, but I really love helping people as well. And I fancy myself creative. So I really love doing things that involve like writing or speaking with others. So I'm working on a podcast, also working on like basically kind of a solo entrepreneur and also like a bigger project with a friend of mine as well. So yeah. I don't really like limitations, like putting too many limitations on like what a person can do. So yeah, I like to keep it open and experience things. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Christina. So yeah, maybe I'll turn it over to Alex. So maybe share a little bit about what you're doing, um, and then maybe some of your future goals also.
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Alex Wong. I'm currently an MBA candidate at Simon Business School, which is the University of Rochester. I graduated from DRBU in 2019 from the bachelor's program. So I remember when DRBU started with maybe like 15 students or something like that, and we got accredited in our MICE sophomore year. Uh, and moving forward, I'm looking primarily at a role in asset management. But I'm also in the process of interviewing for an investment banking role or a job in wealth management. So that's what I'm doing currently.
Great, thank you both. Okay, so the next question I think is sort of just helps to give us a little better picture of, what kind of things drive you, what are you interested in? So why did you come to DRBU? Like what drew you to DRBU? I mean, the way we kind of talked was like kind of your mini origin story of how you came onto this path. Maybe we can start with Alex this time.
Yeah, so I first came to DRBU. I was 18 and I was living in Sydney, Australia, and I got mixed in with the wrong crowd and was partying a bit too much, getting into some pretty unsavory situations. And I knew that I needed to change basically. And I knew that to do that, I had to get out of Sydney. And so in that process of figuring out what I was going to do, my dad mentioned, well, your great aunt is a Buddhist, so why don't you see about going to volunteer at a monastery? And so I reached out to her and she says, either you go to Taiwan or you go to the US. And I said, well, I don't speak any Chinese, so US makes more sense. And so I came and I volunteered at CTDB for 3 months. And that was just when they were kicking off the undergraduate program again, or both the undergraduate and the graduate program again. And I think that the real decision-making process for why DRBU versus my other degree, which I was doing criminology at the University of New South Wales, was, I think, even if I stayed at UNSW and didn't get back into the stuff I was doing before, I don't think that I would have really made a difference. Like I wouldn't have been able to have the sense for having an intentional life and having a real direction for where to go. Whereas when I was at CTTP, I really had a sense that, I would be able to learn something that I wouldn't be able to get anywhere else here. And I'd be able to live a life that I was happy with at the end.
Yeah.
Thank
I love
you.
Alex's origin story.
That's
Maybe saw us like kind of like laughing in the beginning because we know it. Yeah, no, it's great. I think mine is a little different. Um, but we both came when we were 18. So I think like the first 18-year-old student though. I think by the time you started, you were like 19 at that point, right? Yeah, yeah. So I came right after high school and basically it's kind of interesting. So my sister actually used to work with the university when the university was really, really new. So Alex and I are both what they call pioneer students. So, which basically means that we started the university before it was fully accredited. So the university obviously has been established since 1976, but the program that you see today really didn't exist before before 2017 is oh no not sorry not before 2017 but it wasn't credited before 2017 so
Yeah.
and it
Started
really didn't start
2014.
yeah before 2014 so I knew about it because my sister worked there a year before I ever first visited the campus. And then the year after I visited the campus, I actually ended up applying and luckily was accepted and was able to come. Um, I had no intentions of going to DRBU. Like, my origin story is a little weird. When I knew about it because my sister worked there, and I was really done with it. As an 18-year-old, I was also probably not in a great place. I was a little troubled as well. And it was the summer. I had just finished high school. I was really fed up with the education system, and I knew that I really loved to learn. I really loved education, and that I would pursue higher levels of education at some point. Um, but I was really done with the idea of like memorizing information and regurgitating it onto a test, especially a lot of standardized tests that I felt like didn't accurately depict somebody's capacity to learn. So I decided instead that I would move to Peru, where my family's from, for a year, take a gap year, like perfect my Spanish, which is probably still mostly conversational at this point. And then eventually I would come back and kind of go through like the process of, doing it kind of the cheap way because education is also really expensive in the US. And yeah, basically doing like community college and then working my way into a bigger school. I got a call from my aunt who happened to have the same name as my sister at the time. And I thought to myself, oh, I haven't heard from my sister in forever. So I called her back instead. And she picked up and she was just telling me about her life. And she was really busy at work. So she was telling me about work, which happened to be DRBU. And she kind of just by force of habit, she starts talking about like what's happening, like kind of like outreach for DRBU. She's like, why am I saying this? Like, you're not going here. And I go, well, don't stop talking about work because I'm not gonna go to DRBU. And I'm just 2 weeks before I moved to Peru, by the way. And she was like, wait, are you interested? I was like, no. Like, Angela, we're not doing this. And she was like, on a percentage, like, how interested are you? And I was like, in my head thinking this is low, I go, maybe like 30%. And she goes, 30? I can work with 30. I was like, I'm hanging up. So I was like, you know what? Here's what I'll do. Like, I will look it up. I'll check out the website. If I like it, I'll apply. If I don't, I won't even waste your time. Um, I asked her a few more questions about the financial aid because it's need-based, it's a grant-based, which was really intriguing to me at the time. And I thought was said a lot about the school. And then I looked into the website, and it was everything that I was looking for in a university education. Like, it wasn't regurgitating information, it wasn't teaching you what to think, it was teaching you how to think. And I had heard about programs like this, but I hadn't actually seen one that resembled like every single part of the mentality that I believed in, like actually embodied in a university. And I was like, this is crazy. I'm gonna apply. So I did. I was fortunate enough to be accepted. And thank God for rolling admissions. I don't think this would happen today, but I applied. I flew out, and then the next day there were classes. So, and then I was there for 4 years. So that was my origin story. And it was really just because of the education system at DRB.
Awesome. Yeah, I love hearing both of yours, like one after the other. It's great to hear. Like, I don't know, there's definitely differences, but then there's also some similarities, and then how you both ended up here. It's just nice to hear in comparison,
Yeah.
kind of. Cool. So now we're talking about DRBU a little bit. Maybe you can share a little bit about what it was actually like to be at DRBU. So sort of like your life outside of class, in class, and then some people might know or not know that work study is a really big part of being at DRBU because a lot of people here are on financial aid, and that's sort of what the financial aid program is. And then also, we share a campus with a monastery, so that also definitely impacts kind of like what life here is like and what kind of things you can take part in if you want to. Maybe Christina, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, yeah. DRBU is nothing that you would have ever experienced before. Like, I'm gonna say that. But I mean, any university that you go to is a full experience. So it's like, it's not just the education that you're getting, but it's also like where you live for 4 years, and like who your friends are and what you do, and like so on and so forth. So I think being at DRBU, I always imagined myself in a city when I went to university, and it's like tranquil. It's super calm. It's in the middle of like 700 acres of just beautiful forest and valleys. And so that kind of tranquility that you get there is really beautiful. But the level of transformation that you also have inside of the university, because you're working with text in the classroom that are designed to transform humanity. That's what it's done over the past like hundreds of years or thousands of years. So you see how that works on like a societal level, but then also on a personal level. And then you add that into the fact that, usually people that are drawn to this type of university are people that, prefer critical thinking rather than just accepting the status quo. I used to joke that every single person, nun or not, or monk or not, was a rebel if they went to DRBU. They wanted something a little different. That kind of critical thinking really opens up conversations with yourself and with the world and with the other people that you're interacting with every day, as well as the fact that you are in a monastery. So the expectation is, I will say, the expectation is that you do transform and that you grow. Like, I think about when I came into DRB when I was 18 years old. I was like, oh my gosh, I was 18. But then I also think about how much, people saw me grow, hopefully, like year after year. And how much I've grown even since then. And I think that's incredible that when I went into a university, nobody expected me to be perfect and nobody expected me to stay the same. And that gives you so much room to really grow with what you're learning. As well as, I mean, talk about days for like the experience that you get as far as like work and with the service scholarship and whatnot, and really being able to like use that towards your career, I think is really important. But I think we'll probably talk about that more later. That's just kind of my general experience with DRBU. I don't know if you had the same thing, Alex, or
Oh, absolutely. Like, I think in kind of understanding what DRBU is, like going back to why it was made, like when Master Hua made DRBU, he said this is my gift to the world. And I think that, like, touching on everything you said, of like he built a place so that you would be able to transform yourself and then hopefully go on and do something and like take that into the world with you. So the whole program is really designed around that, where, in the classroom, it's all discussion based. So you're reading these texts that are like kind of a window into the soul of different parts of humanity, and then using that as a way to explore yourself and also like kind of deepen and refine your thought process through discussion. And like just as part of like what it's like to kind of be in that space, it's like it's very, you have to learn how to cooperate and work with each other. Like firstly, of like, okay, you put in a room for 3 hours to talk about something. It's like, oh, you better figure out, you got to figure it out soon. And you also have to be prepared. You can't, it's very clear if you haven't read the material. But I think that over time, there's like a special kind of bond that happens with you and your classmates. You get to kind of see a fairly unique side of them that's developed over 2 or 4 years. Then going into like going to school in a monastery, like in some ways there's a lot of, it's definitely not a typical college experience. There's a lot of things you can't do, but I think that at the same time, it's a really great opportunity to explore certain parts of yourself, because the expectations and the way that you're going to operate within the monastery, within the temple, are not going to be like anywhere else that you will ever go. And so the being in this place where you're precepted for 2 or 4 years gives you a chance to explore some of these basic human forces in ourselves. And then like definitely I think service scholarship, I think CTDB and DRBU runs off of heroic efforts, and it's really hard not to be like inspired being around these people. And whether it's something from cleaning dishes to running programs or doing big projects, there's a huge opportunity to actualize whatever it is that you're working on, in yourself, through the classes or through your spiritual practice, or you're given a huge amount of leeway. And if you say, oh, I have this great idea, oftentimes like, okay, that's great, go and do it. So
Thank you both. Yeah, I feel like both thing you guys both touched upon is this aspect of transformation, which I think is definitely something, we talk a lot about. And, just to kind of make it real for people, can you share an experience of when transformation, or I guess like, yeah, experience of transforming at DRBU, um, something that just stands out in your memory? Alex, you want to go first?
sure. So I think the thing that comes to mind, like there's transformation can be sudden or it can be gradual, and you don't really realize it until a new situation pops up and you go, oh, like I'm responding to that differently than I usually would. And I think that for myself, touching on the service scholarship part of things, I remember coming in and was very much like, okay, I had a very set plan for what I was going to do, and like what I wanted to get out of the experience. But I think as time went along in the program, I started to think a lot more about how can I give back and how can I be a part of this community. And so I think a moment that really shone through for me was actually when I graduated, and I realized that before I left, I had to do something to give back to the community. And so over the summer between graduating and the next cohort came in, I helped built a courtyard in the back of DRBU and ran the summer camp and piloted a retreat for the monastery as a monastic immersion, just because I felt that I had gone so much from the experience there that I wanted to find a way that I could contribute back. And I think also as a testament to service scholarship that you're given 4 years to develop skills and to get work experience in whatever you're interested in doing. And that was all things that I didn't have a background in construction. I didn't have a background in thinking programs or any of like planning or anything. And that was all things that I did during my time in DRBU.
Yeah, I just want to echo like the courtyard that Alex built is incredible, and it's literally used every single day now for lunches and meals and stuff. So like to be able to see, I mean, I don't know, I'm not Alex, but like to be able to see like directly the influence that you have on like, you know, the university that you went to, I'm sure that's magical in its own way. So also thank you, Alex. So um yeah, I guess I feel like Alex already touched on a huge part of it. Like a lot of the change, and I think a lot of the change that you see in life, like it's not from one day to the next. You know, it's usually a gradual process, and this like idea of instant gratification is not, it's kind of superficial. But some things do change rapidly in people's lives as well. So I'll give an example of that since he already touched on the other one. And don't get me wrong, like a lot of this, like it was both rapid change and also a lot more went into it, but actually it touches a little bit on the CEI that we have. So CEI stands for contemplative exercise immersion. And basically we read a lot of these texts every semester, and each semester we have like a what we call a strand class. And in that strand class, we have a week where we basically tested ourselves, almost like a science experiment, but with a philosophy. My first year and my first semester that I did this was in actually Chinese classics that we decided that the strand was in. So we were reading Confucius, and we were reading about the virtue, basically ritual or li. And the assignment was essentially Shari said, okay, for this week, like I want you all to, Shari is one of the professors, by the way. Anyway, she said, I want you all to choose something that you want to change, like basically a ritual that you want to implement into your life every single day, and see if that actually makes a change in your life. Is that the theory is that, you know, by performing this ritual, it changes your life and you change the ritual and so on and so forth. It has a mutual benefit. And some people chose like to make up their bed or every day, or to like or to read a certain passage every day. And I decided to do something a little more dramatic with my life because why not? And like I said, I was 18. I didn't have the greatest relationship with my parents at the time. And because of that, I had stopped calling them, reaching out as much. And I was like, you know what? Let me call them every single day. Like, and in my head, I phrased it as like, as if I had the time. I totally had the time, but anyway, as if I had the time to call them every day. So every day I called them, and I basically from like the first day they were like, "Do you need something? Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I was just calling to check in." They're like, "Okay, that's weird." And like the second day, they were like, "This is 2 days in a row. Like, are you good? Are you okay? Like, everything is all right?" I was like, yeah, it's fine. And progressively as the week went on, you know, they went from like what's happening to almost expecting my call. And the last day that we did the program, or that we did the immersion, um, they not only did they expect my call, but we had like one of the best conversations that we had had in years. And that simple like exercise, one, it showed me in like a week's time how much can transform with like intention and dedication and care, and just like consistency. And then also it literally transformed our relationship. We started to, because the level of conversation, it wasn't just like, oh, I called for 5 minutes. It was like I intentionally called for like 30 minutes or sometimes an hour if the conversation just kept going. That we went from very surface level conversations, like a real conversation about our lives and what's happening and actually filling each other in. Um, and ever since literally that with DRBO, our relationship has been entirely different, and it set the foundation for future change. So I mean, there's always the room to like kind of, if you're brave enough, also to experiment with your own life and really apply the philosophies to, you know, to see how it applies on a minute level as well. So that was one of the transformations that I really appreciated from DRBU.
Thanks, Christina. That's such an inspiration, actually, because I think, so many of us have, I think a lot of people wish that, we could improve our relationships with our parents. So it's really
Sure.
nice to hear that. Okay, so I'll ask one more question, and then I already see we have some people asking questions in the chat box, which is great. We'll definitely get to yours. So the last one is how, I think this is the big one, sort of like how has what you learned at DRBU prepare you for life after DRBU? Now, both of you guys have, graduated. It's been some years since you've graduated, so maybe you have been able to see a little bit how what you learned, experienced at DRBU is really translated to things outside. Um, Christina, you want to go for it?
Yeah. Um, I feel like Alex already started to touch on this actually. With the service scholarship was a huge part of it. I think like Alex already mentioned, when he went into DRBU, he didn't have a lot of the skills to start off with. And honestly, I didn't either. I worked for a few months at like I said, I have most of my careers in like sales and public relations and marketing and things like that. Um, but before, like I was a hostess at Asian Chef, I don't know, for like a month. and, and I worked at a gym doing sales for a little bit before I went to DRBU. And then I went to DRBU, and service scholarship is really cool because essentially there's a need-based grant, which I'm sure Brenda can explain in a lot more detail. But the service scholarship allows you to work at the university for, basically a period of hours each week that fits in with your school schedule. And the work can be in all different parts of the community and all different parts of the university. And you also get to kind of explore projects that you're interested in. So don't get me wrong, I totally did dishes and I was on like the playground for the K through 12 school that's also on campus and like helping with them. But I was also like working with outreach and working with uh yeah, working. I went to different events in like San Francisco. I also we started the Interfaith Club, like that gives you opportunities to learn how to build something from the ground up, really write out a document because that constitution is no joke. um that is more detailed and thought out and kind of a business law based kind of mindset. So I think what's really cool about DRBU is that in a lot of ways it's still really, really small. um it's it has so much more room to grow in like the best, most optimistic way possible. And I've already seen it grow so much from when I was there as a pioneer student to today. And seeing it grow like every year since then is incredible. And there's so much room for the students to be able to learn whatever they want to learn and implement whatever they want to implement, which was something that really excited me when I went there. And now that I've left DRBU for a little bit, the education has taught me a lot of critical thinking, but the work experience, as far as like working with outreach and working on the website and working with even kids, like as far as like teaching and whatnot, like I had 4 years of technically paid experience that can go on my resume. So that when I left, I wasn't completely new in the work field, as well as the experience that I got for like study abroad, being able to learn Chinese, and also I did an internship that definitely was through DRBU as well. So there's so much room to add on to your resume in that way.
Yeah, I really like to echo what uh, Christina was saying of I think that a lot of the opportunity for professional growth and like looking post DRBU, it's both in terms of the hard and the soft skills and like what you can put on your resume. It's really, you have so much room to make that as long as you're intentional during your time at DRBU. Like you can go into project management, you can go into marketing, you can go into anything, CTDB and DRB was a sandbox. And if you say, oh, I have this really great idea of how to do something, people will go, yeah, okay, great. Like, well, go and do it. Like, there's no, people are very willing to give you some rope to be able to try something out and see if you can make something. So I think just that like entrepreneurial aspect and being able to have the mindset of like, oh, there's a way that I can improve this, and I'm going to step up and do it. And so that's like one really big aspect. I think the other part that I really see, and I've been drawing on a lot in my MBA, and it's hard to, I'm conflating a little bit of my time in DRBU. I also did a year and a half of monastic training, so I think it somewhat smushes together. But that the soft skills that you develop and like the discipline, the attention to detail, the ability to have like a to really flesh out your thoughts and to have a unique contribution to a discussion that's insightful and thought through and probably not going to be the same that other people are going to put out there is a huge contribution to whatever team you're a part of and leaving DRBU and joining the workforce. So I think that there's a lot of, the other part of the sandbox is how you spend your time in your personal development, that you can really shape your mind and how you think and how you act over 4 years or 2 years. And that is going to be a huge asset moving forward.